Hi, welcome to Ask Bishop Zac. We have a question from Winnie. Came in actually quite a while ago. Apologies, Winnie, for that. It says, "Hi, Bishop Zac. Kindly, as a minister, show us the thin line between honoring men of God and just being obsessed with them."
I don't know whether Winnie is making reference to passages in Timothy, the letter of Paul to Timothy, or Paul's letter to the Corinthians, in which the question of double honor to those who serve well, particularly in 1 Timothy chapter 5, where it says that those who serve well, who lead well, deserve double honor, and then later makes reference to quotes actually a saying within the Jewish tradition that says that the laborer deserves wages. In other words, the laborer should be paid according to the work done, should not be cheated. So one, I think that if that's the reference really being spoken about, and then secondly, I don't know whether Winnie is referencing what we've been experiencing and seeing, the occurrences of pastors, bishops, apostles, demanding of the congregations to express honor by giving gifts, or even sometimes, I think we saw it the other day, prostrating. And I think it's to be able to say that, unfortunately, on the question of how we honor or look after or take care of pastors, bishops, in other words, church workers, people for whom it's their full-time work to give attention to teaching, to the administration of the church, and so on. Unfortunately, there seems to have been two extremes. On the one hand, in fact, I grew up with this notion that if you were going to be a bishop, pastor, reverend in the Church of Uganda, you were literally signing up for poverty. And in fact, then, if your children went to good schools, if your children looked decent, then the congregation would say, he's stealing our money. Yeah. So it seemed to be honorable to be poor. So there is that extreme. The second extreme is where today, to be a pastor, apostle, you drive the latest
flight jets.
Oh, excuse me, yeah, flight jets and so on. And I think it's really responding to both extremes. On the one hand, the extreme in which, and I think that's actually what Paul is directly responding to, that there is a situation in which in the new dispensation, where the old structure in the Jewish tradition of the temple, of the synagogue, when the whole process of tithing and everything structured the well-being and the welfare of those who served was very clear. Now, in this new community of believers, fairly eclectic, no tradition exists before. The question is, so there then became a situation where those who were serving full-time, while the other members of the congregation were working, were literally not being looked after. And so Paul here says this, that those who serve well, that means they are true and faithful to God's word. They are accountable. In fact, what is amazing is that they are accountable to the congregation, to the members, even for their welfare. So there is a structure, clearly. There is a structure. Paul now says the structure needs to be fair. They need to be looked after well. There needs to be a way in which they are looked after well. So the first thing you want to say, these are accountable church workers. These are accountable pastors. Unlike too many of the pastors, clergy, bishops, who, when the offering is taken, they take it home. And there's no accountability. It's put in their bank accounts. In fact, I'm told of churches whose land is in the names of their pastors. No, he's saying those who lead well should be looked after well. In other words, their welfare should be well catered for. Their kids should go to school. Their kids, they shouldn't live a life above all others, very clearly, but they should be able to live a life that is honorable, be looked after very well. So certainly this addresses the excesses and abuses that we sometimes see. It's the moderation. It's that they need to be looked after well and taken care of.
Just a question, would it be also something to consider about the nature of the wealth of the congregation? Because, say, an example, our brother who lives in Switzerland, you know, the church that he would go to, where, you know, potentially the wealth in that congregation differs really greatly from the wealth in congregations, you know, in churches here, for example. I wouldn't give names, but I mean, our economy is different. So would it be also to say that in Switzerland, for example, where it might seem like maybe the congregation is going overboard, it's within the means of the congregation, so that's okay. But if it's a congregation here, is it to say that then there should be that consideration as well?
No, I would say that we live in Switzerland. Let's just discuss Kampala and Kisoro. You know, the economy of Kampala is different from the economy of Kisoro. The economy of suburb Kampala. So if you have a pastor who serves a suburb church, surely he should be able to live among the people where he serves. There is a situation right now where pastors can't afford to live among, you know, the people they serve, because they are not paid enough to pay rent. In my church, that is why it's a requirement before a church becomes a parish. The parish must have a house within the vicinity of where they live. So there needs to be a way in which the pastor, and it's very, very clear, the teaching of God's word is given priority. The administration, the pastoral administration of the congregation is given administration. These people are doing well. They should be looked after well. They have decent housing. They have good food that they eat. They are not famished. Their children go to school. Now, in the rural areas, it's a different story. So in some of the rural, what that looks like. So growing up, I'm a child of a church worker. What the church provided was land. So we didn't suffer food because there was land to cultivate and there was a house to live in. So really, this whole idea of double honor worship, and you know, that's not what it's about. It's not about excesses that we see pastors, bishops exemplify. No, it's that you must live in a commensurate way with those whom you serve. It should not be above, it should not be below, it should be decent within the characterization of what decency means within the economy in which the pastor, the church worker is serving.
Thank you very much. Winnie, I hope we've been helpful.
That was long, sorry.